Tonight on Faith Nation, remembering those who've made the ultimate sacrifice.
She has a vivid memory of him smiling and laughing before he left. And that was the last time she ever saw him.
And upholding the legacy of the fallen 81 years after D-Day.
There's a level of responsibility you feel to carry on for what he died for.
Plus, a leap of faith.
My son's right here with me.
That's right.
First Lieutenant David Wright.
You're going to take David flying with us today.
Yeah.
CBN News travels along with Gold Star families honoring their loved ones from way up high.
And actor Gary Sinise shares his personal calling to give back to those who give all.
That attack, that terrible day, was a turning point for me into a full-on service mission that, manifested itself into the creation of my own foundation.
All this and more tonight on this special Memorial Day edition of Faith Nation. Their names may not be widely known, yet their blood was spilled for our freedom and their sacrifice etched into the soul of the nation. Good evening from Washington. I'm John Jessup. Well, tonight, Faith Nation honors the fallen and families who carry on their legacies, starting off with stories that look back on key battles that turned the tide of World War II now more than 80 years ago. We began with D-Day with a report from CBN contributor Chuck Holton, a former Army Ranger himself. He visited Normandy to bring us this look at the enduring legacy of the greatest generation who fought and died for freedom.
To say that it's sobering to walk among the graves of these more than 9,000 Americans who gave their lives back in 1944 here at Normandy Beach is the height of understatement. But it makes me think not just of the lives and the futures that these people gave up, but the fact that they gave them not just to liberate America, but to bring the ideal of America to another continent.
On June 6, 1944, the course of world history changed as Allied forces launched a massive invasion on the beaches of Normandy. Among thousands of brave soldiers who risked everything that day was Tech Sergeant Charles Leonard Jones, whose story of courage and sacrifice is being brought to light by his great-nephew, Mark Tomlin.
My grandma remembers when he was right before he left for war. She was about 4 years old, and he would play catch with her and roll the ball back and forth. And she has a vivid memory of him smiling and laughing before he left. And that was the last time she ever saw him.
Tech Sergeant Jones survived the initial assault on D-Day only to be killed in action on July 4th. Tomlin is the first of his family to visit Jones' grave, making this a deeply personal journey to honor his great-uncle's sacrifice.
He made it almost a month after landing here on D-Day. His father found out what had happened one day when they came with the flags and he saw them outside. He just knew that his son was dead.
If the invasion was going to be a success on June 6, 1944, the 2nd and 5th Ranger Battalions had to take these cliffs here at Pointe du Hoc. It fell to them because they're the premier light infantry unit in the U.S. military. And they were going to have to fire ropes up these 150-foot cliffs, climb up hand over hand, under fire, and take these coastal defense batteries. And so the commander of the 29th Infantry Division, Brigadier General Cota, wanted to give the Rangers some encouragement before they embarked on their mission. So he came to the lead element of the 5th Ranger Battalion and said, "What unit is this?" And they said, "It's the Rangers, sir." And he said, "Well then, Rangers, lead the way." That became the official motto for the 75th Ranger Regiment that's still used by the Army Rangers even to this day.
There's a level of responsibility you feel to carry on for what he died for.
As the number of living D-Day veterans dwindles, thousands gather to commemorate this pivotal moment in history and reflect on the challenges the world faces today. Stories of veterans like Tech Sergeant Jones serve as an important reminder of the high cost of freedom and the unwavering spirit of those who fought to defend it. From the hallowed grounds of Normandy, France, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Important reminders indeed. Well, 80 years ago, U.S. Marines launched one of the most brutal and iconic assaults of World War II on the remote island of Iwo Jima. The Japanese defenders had turned the island into a weapon, fortifying it with hidden strongholds and miles of tunnel, all part of a deadly strategy that made every inch of ground a fight to death. Here again, Chuck Holton with a special look back on the 80th anniversary.
When the Marines landed on Iwo Jima, most of them didn't see a whole lot of enemy soldiers. That's because there weren't many of them in the open. Even though there were 22 to 23,000 enemy troops on the island, they weren't on the island so much as in the island. That's because they were in caves like this one. They had dug almost 11 miles of caves, some of them as many as 7 stories tall, under Mount Suribachi. And that's why when they dropped the bombs on the island and threw artillery at it, they really didn't kill too many of the enemy troops because they were all safely underground. Amid the chaos and carnage, a single iconic moment gave the nation hope.
Suribachi is ours, a toehold on the southern tip of the island.
A lot of people talk about the flag raising, which happened on the 4th day, like that's the culmination of the battle, when in reality it was just the very beginning of the battle. It is an island that saw 6,821 Americans killed.
I didn't know what to think. I mean, they told us not to get real too happy over the thing. The war wasn't over. It wasn't over at all. We were going to have to push to the other end of the island.
I cried. To see Old Glory up there on that hill, God, that was something else. You can't believe that.
I was on the airstrip, and I just happened to look, and the flag went up. And I said to the guy, look, the flag come up, you know. And I like the other guy said a lot of clapping. I didn't hear no clapping. All we said is about time, you know.
The Japanese defenders held out almost to the last man.
They knew they were going to die. There was no going home from Iwo Jima. Every single man on that island knew that this was the end, and they fought accordingly.
From their fortified positions on Mount Suribachi, the Japs looked right down our throats.
Red Beach is quiet and peaceful today, but on that day, the day of the invasion, it was nothing but blood and chaos and courage up and down this beach as far as you can see. The men who landed here did so with very little hope of ever getting home unscathed. And you have to think about the high value they must have placed on what they were doing to continue to charge this beach, even over the bodies of the 566 men who died here on the first day alone.
Wreckage along the beach was only a small part of the cost of 26 days of fighting. We stacked the helmets of our dead in neat piles.
More Americans died on Iwo Jima than in any other Pacific battle. But the lessons learned here would shape the future of warfare and medicine for decades to come.
To put this in perspective, we spent 10-odd years in Iraq, 14, 15 years in Afghanistan. Combined in that period, we lost less men than we lost on the island of Iwo Jima in 36 days. That's a frightening statistic. But it also is an amazing statistic telling you the advances in military medicine, telling you the advances in tactics and strategy. We learned the lessons from this battle and continue to teach them in our war colleges.
For many who served on bloody Iwo, the memories are carved deeper than the island's caves, and the cost of victory still echoes today.
My daughter-in-law says to me, why are they always honoring you for? I said, not honoring me, they honor the service. The real people that should be honored, the people in the ground. I said, those are the heroes, not the ones that came back.
8 decades later, the youngest of the veterans who survived Iwo Jima are now in their late 90s, so few remain. This may be the last year any of them are able to return, to walk these beaches once more and honor the comrades they left behind. From the hallowed ground of Iwo Jima, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Priceless reporting. Thank you, Chuck. Well, how God took one woman's loss of her husband and turned her deepest sorrow into a ministry to help other military widows. Her story of pain, love, faith, and redemption coming up. Well, for many, this day is a solemn reminder of personal loss. Rachel Faulkner-Brown knows that pain quite intimately. She transformed her grief into a mission of hope. As the founder of Never Alone Widows, Rachel now walks alongside other women navigating the journey of loss helping them heal through faith. Rachel, thank you for being with us on Faith Nation. Maybe it would be great to start off with a little of your own story, and then as we reflect on Memorial Day, and what would you like people to know about women and families and how they can carry on after the headlines of the holiday fade?
Yeah. Well, I'm widowed twice. So I was widowed the first time when I was 23. My husband had an aneurysm. I remarried an Air Force pilot 2 years later, and we had just a beautiful life together. He was flying the A-10. We transitioned after Hurricane Katrina to the T-38. We say we because I was serving with him as an Air Force wife. Had two babies, and he went to fly 17 years ago in April, and he and his student pilot took off, and a cable in the wing was broken, and they were both killed instantly. They ejected, but full tank of gas, and the ejection seat doesn't work below 1,000 feet, and I was left widowed twice. The thing that we had said, oh, that'll never happen, right? That wouldn't ever happen to us. I've already paid the suffering price. And it did. And so I was left widowed again at 31 with two little babies. And I think what I want people to know is God, I mean, it sounds trivial, but God can transform anything. If he can do it for me, he can do it for you. And, I love Revelation 12:11. It says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So my story and the thousands of widows that we work with, their stories impacts the next generation of widows, and 2,800 new widows every single day in this country need to hear that hope.
Wow, 2,800. I had not heard that statistic before. We know that community is a lifeline for those who are grieving, and the Bible has this mandate to care for the widows. Can you talk about why that connection is so vital, and what does that look like through your ministry, Never Alone Widows?
Yeah. Well, I don't believe that you can heal outside of community. I mean, you can try, but true healing comes within community with Jesus. I don't believe there's any healing outside the power of what Jesus did for us. And when you know and understand the true gospel, not religion, but God, the gospel, everything changes because you're not performing for Jesus, which is what I did for so many years. And I think at the end of the day, community, we have 70 groups across this country in an online group. We just had 3 women from 3 countries in our online group this past week. And they're desperate for it. And they know that when I can share my pain with someone else who really understands, nothing else matters, and you feel seen. We don't wear badges that say I'm a widow when we go to church. And so I think, true spirituality is being so aware of the widows in your church and around you. And it's just like the Field of Dreams. If you look for them, you will find them.
Rachel, along those lines, we only have a few seconds left, but I really want to ask, for those who want to say something but fear maybe saying the wrong thing, what are some practical, meaningful ways that they can initiate conversation and help others like you and the women that you're working with feel seen?
Well, this Memorial Day, I mean, you want people to say your husband's name. I mean, I love it 17 years later, hearing Blair's name. It's such an honor to hear his name. And I just think the more people get comfortable with just asking, how are you doing? Tell me what's been hard about Memorial Day. Tell me what's been hard about this journey. They want to share. They want to be asked. People want you to be curious about their life.
Rachel Faulkner Brown with Never Alone Widows, thank you for sharing your story, and we remember your loss, and we appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Up next, serving those who serve. The call of God that motivated the life's work of one Hollywood star to support the military both on and off the battlefield. Well, as we pause this Memorial Day to honor the men and women who laid down their lives in service to the country, we're reminded that sacrifice leaves a lasting impact not only on the battlefield, but also in the lives of the families left behind. Actor Gary Sinise has made it his life's mission to serve those who serve. Recently, CBN's Billy Hallowell talked to Sinise about what drives that passion and how it comes from a place of calling.
Gary, it's always a pleasure to chat with you, and there's a lot to talk about. I want to start with your foundation and the work that you've done for so many veterans. For those who don't know, and I know you've shared this story before, but I think it's an important one. What was it that got you started down this road of creating a foundation and doing the incredible work that you do?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. First of all, it's multiple things along the way. You know, I don't think it's just one thing. I think there were things that added up, and then there was a turning point where I just dove into action. I think, you know, of course, I've got a lot of veterans on my side of the family, my wife's side of the family. So I really think, you know, it begins kind of there. Her side of the family is Vietnam veterans, and I got very involved with them, sort of Vietnam veterans and supporting Vietnam veterans back in the 80s in Chicago when I was working in theater there. And in 1993, I got to audition to play Lieutenant Dan for Forrest Gump, and I got that part. And of course, he was a Vietnam veteran. And I very much wanted to play him just simply because of the Vietnam veteran experience that I'd had going back to the 80s and wanting to do something to sort of honor the Vietnam veterans in my family and the ones that I'd met, you know, in Chicago and started supporting. And those were the key elements that sort of teed everything up for what would happen after September 11th, 2001, when we were attacked and we started deploying to Afghanistan and Iraq. And that attack, that terrible day, was a turning point for me into a full-on service mission that, you know, manifested itself into the creation of my own foundation.
Yeah, obviously you've had a successful career and continue to, but when you put energy towards something, you know, the other thing, there's going to be a little less energy going towards it when it comes to acting. Or was that an easy decision for you to say, this is where I am being led and this is the direction I'm going in now?
Do you remember the Friday after September 11th was, you know, which was a Tuesday? The Friday after that Tuesday, President Bush had stated that he was kind of declaring that we would have a national day of prayer and remembrance for the victims of September 11th.
Yes. Yes.
Friday, just a few days after the event, was kind of the churches and, you know, houses of worship all over the country were just jam-packed with people trying to process what we'd been through and people looking for some kind of peace, something that would help us through. And I went to our little Catholic church, you know, in Malibu, and took the family, and it was so crowded that we couldn't sit down. And I was standing there holding my little daughter's hand and tears rolling down my cheeks. And I came out of there, either the priest said it in his homily that day, or I just heard it. I don't know. But about service to others was going to be the thing that helped us through. Service, you know, serving others, pulling together to help each other out through this difficult time was going to be something that would help us all heal and help our nation heal. And so, you know, whether he said it or not, I heard it. And I walked out of there and I started volunteering after that. I just started doing stuff like that, just raising my hand and helping organizations out, starting little things, started a band. It all came from kind of this sense of not wanting to leave our Iraq and Afghanistan veterans feeling the way our Vietnam veterans felt, unsupported. The nation was divided at that time. They didn't get the welcome home they deserved. I was trying to make sure that people responding to the attacks of September 11th would feel appreciated and that there was a grateful nation behind them.
Well, still ahead, taking a literal leap of faith. Meet the Gold Star family seeking healing with a new perspective on their grief. That's next on Faith Nation. Well, finally, healing from loss can often seem insurmountable. One program is helping these families find hope, connection, and by taking a literal leap of faith. CBN's Brady Carter has more.
I'm here to celebrate my son. 12 years ago, he died by suicide. I really want to do this. I'm a little scared, but I'm feeling it. Hopefully, I'll be able to release a lot of things that I've been holding to.
For Gold Star families like Shelton Thornton from Louisiana, the pain of losing a child, parent, or a loved one who served our country can seem like an ever-present anchor dragging them down.
Any questions, any thoughts?
My son's right here with me.
That's right.
First Lieutenant David Wright.
We're going to take David flying with us today.
Yeah.
Operation Support Our Troops America, working with the help of the all-veteran group parachute team, taking skydivers 14,000 feet into the sky to help them find strength and courage to take the next step forward.
5,000 feet off the ground, there's a very different view of North Carolina. Now, today is not about the acceleration of a free fall, but today we are celebrating the Gold Star families who've lost loved ones, who are celebrating their heroes. And it's an opportunity to find hope, healing, and a new perspective on life.
Yes, my dad was in the Army, and in ROTC, he did everything that they allowed him to do except for jump out of the plane, so I'm doing this because he couldn't.
We get the incredible opportunity of providing moments of healing for these people. You know, the biggest thing is we've all been through dark periods of our life. God's not done with us. So I get the chance to be part of something so much bigger than life, that we get to be part of helping others heal from certain darkness and difficulties.
Families from as far as California come here to Rayford, North Carolina, in hope of moving forward.
I would say the easiest way to talk about it is that grief is something that you use. You're not possessed by it. We're trying to help set them free from the psychological traps that happen because of emotions like grief that feel like they've taken over our lives, but they really haven't.
Clinical psychologist Dr. Doug McKinley has partnered with Operation Support Our Troops America from the beginning, and he sees the leap of faith as transformational.
It was absolutely amazing. First day of the rest of my life.
Well, it doesn't help with the grief. It actually excites everything, but when we tie it to the message that we're trying to say to get them to let go of their fears, the metaphor is that you can literally physically let go and also psychologically let go.
Thank you for taking good care of us.
Absolutely.
It was amazing grace.
Their stories remind us that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's facing it, one leap, one step at a time.
Pay it forward. If you see a soldier, walk up to them, shake their hand, thank you for your service. If you see a person that's non-military, or whether they are or not, say hey to them, because you never know what that person is going through that day, and you could change their lives.
It was absolutely amazing. It was epic. Thank you for that opportunity. My gosh. Thank you. Reporting in Rayford, North Carolina, Brody Carter, CBN News.
Perspective. Well, thank you for joining us today, and again, thank you to the fallen and their families who gave their all.